Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling what might be the most precise and detailed spiritual blueprint we have ever looked at.
I think you're right.
We're going to offer you a shortcut, really, into the architecture of the cosmos and, I guess, the human mind itself. So forget any vague ideas you have about reincarnation or just, good karma.
This is something else entirely.
This is a guide to intentional existence. We are diving deep into the Saṅkhārupapatti Sutta.
Yes, the Discourse on Rebirth by Volitional Formation. It's from the Majjhima Nikaya, MN 120. And it's just an extraordinary text. It's not philosophy, it's a manual.
A manual, I like that.
It's a highly precise instruction manual for a spiritual practitioner, and it details exactly how, using focused mental energy and what you could call established moral capital, they can literally dictate their future existence.
So our mission today is to follow this blueprint, this manual step by step. We're going to unpack the core mechanics of how a practitioner, and we're talking about a serious monk or maybe a very dedicated lay follower, intentionally maps out their next life.
And the map is vast.
It really is. It starts with something as, worldly as aspiring to be a wealthy noble right here on earth. And it goes all the way up to the highest, most subtle states of mind in the entire universe.
And then it goes beyond the map.
Exactly. Then we're going to look at the ultimate destination that makes that whole beautiful map totally irrelevant, ending existence altogether.
So the setting for this teaching, as the standard opening goes, Eva mi sutta, thus have I heard, is in Savatthi.
Right, at Jedda's Grove.
Jedda's Grove, the monastery built by the merchant Anathapindika. And the Buddha, the Bhagava, is addressing the monks. But he tells them they need to approach this with a very specific kind of focus. This isn't for casual listening.
And that focus really has to start with the name of the discourse itself, right? Because if you can get your head around the title, you basically understand the enormous power that's locked inside this teaching.
Absolutely. The foundational concept is Saṅkhārupapatti. And we really should spend a moment on the etymology here because it is the key that unlocks the entire discourse.
Please do. That single compound word carries so much weight.
It really does. So we start with saṅkhāra. This is, one of the most complex and important concepts in all of Buddhist thought.
It comes up everywhere.
Everywhere. It comes from combining sam, which means together, and the root ka, which means to do or to make. So literally it means to put together or to prepare.
Okay.
But in this context of action and causality, it means volitional formations. These are the mental formations, the intentions, the choices you make that build your karma. It's the mental force that constructs your reality moment by moment.
So we're not talking about just random passing thoughts. This is directed mental effort, conscious or not, that creates a trajectory for your life.
Precisely. It's directed will. It's the forming power of the mind. Then you add the second part, upapatti.
Which is the rebirth part.
That's the rebirth part. It means arising or rebirth. It's composed of upa, meaning stepping onto, and pad, to step or go. So when you put them together, Saṅkhārupapatti means rebirth according to one's volitional aspirations, according to your will.
Wow. This whole mechanism is a radical statement. It proves that rebirth isn't some passive, random lottery based on a messy bundle of past actions. It can be actively directed by your present mental intent, but only if that intent is powerful and pure enough.
That is radical. It puts all the responsibility and really all the power right back into the hands of the practitioner. It just shatters the idea of some passive fate. And so the Buddha tells the monks, first, to suntha, to listen closely, and then something even more important.
Yes, sadhuka manasi karotha. And this instruction is crucial for you, the listener, right now. Manasi means in the mind, and karotha means do or make.
So make it in your mind.
Literally do it in the mind carefully. But it's an instruction to attend carefully, to reflect on this, to internalize this knowledge so deeply that it becomes part of your working mental landscape. Because this entire system, from being born into a wealthy family to attaining a formless cosmic state, it all hinges on the clarity and intention you develop through this kind of focused reflection. Okay, so let's unpack this blueprint. You said you can't just dream of a high heaven and poof, you're there. A casual wish just has no cosmic traction.
Not at all.
The sutta is very clear that you first need the necessary spiritual assets to I guess, finance that kind of massive aspiration. It lays out 5 foundational qualities that are this non-negotiable spiritual capital.
That's a perfect way to put it. These 5 qualities purify the mind to such a degree that its volition, its saṅkhāra, becomes astronomically powerful. They're what ensure that when your mind locks onto a goal, it has the moral and intellectual stability to actually get there.
All right, let's start with the first one, Saddhā. We always translate this as faith, but in this context, that word just feels, I don't know, a bit flimsy.
It really is inadequate. Saddhā comes from sam, together, and dha, to place or put. So the deeper meaning is to place one's heart on something. It implies conviction.
That's different.
It's completely different. This isn't blind belief in some idea you haven't tested. It's a deep-seated confidence and trust in the Dhamma, the spiritual path, and in the teacher who taught it, because you've seen evidence that it works.
Right.
Without Saddhā, the practitioner would doubt the entire blueprint. I mean, why would you bother cultivating a pure intention for a realm you don't actually believe exists? Saddhā is the firm foundation that stops your mind from wavering.
Okay, that makes sense. The second one is Sīla, moral virtue. Why is being an ethical person so fundamental to a cosmic rebirth strategy?
Well, this is maybe the most practical and immediate of the 5. Sīla is sometimes linked etymologically with the word sattala, which means coolness.
Coolness.
Yes, coolness. Ethical conduct binds you to goodness, sure. But for the meditator, what's crucial is that it cools the fires of regret.
The vipassara, you've mentioned that before.
Exactly. Vipassara is remorse. It's that mental agitation, that regret you feel from moral failings. If you violate your own ethical code, if you lie or steal or harm someone, your mind is haunted by it. It's not at peace.
It's noisy.
It's very noisy. And that haunting, that self-recrimination is agitation. Agitation makes it utterly impossible to attain deep concentration, or samadhi.
And you need samadhi for the higher realms.
You absolutely need it. So Sīla provides that essential coolness and mental clarity. It's the absolute prerequisite for deep meditation, and therefore it's the prerequisite for intentional rebirth. Without a cool, calm mind, you can't meditate deeply, and your volition for a pure realm gets scattered and weak.
I see. So you can't just think your way into a pure state if your conscience is constantly nagging at you. That's a very practical link. Okay, that brings us to the third one, Sutta.
Sutta literally just means heard, from the root su, to hear. Now, you have to remember the historical context. This was an oral culture.
Right, no books.
No books. So a learned person was literally one who has heard much. It means you have a deep knowledge of the Dhamma. You've listened to the discourses, you've memorized them, you know the maps.
So it's about knowing the terrain.
Exactly. You can't intentionally direct your rebirth to, say, the Abhasara realm if you have no idea that realm exists, what it's like, or the precise mental states, the yanas, that you need to master to get there. And knowledge in the system is literal cosmological navigation power.
That makes perfect sense. Your aspiration has to be informed by a kind of spiritual science. Then we have Kaga. This is about generosity, letting go.
Yes, Kaga. Generosity, or letting go, it comes from the root kaj, which means to abandon or give up. This is so important because remember, the ultimate goal of the entire path is letting go of existence itself. Kaga is the training ground for that.
So it's like practicing on a smaller scale.
Precisely. Stinginess, greed, material attachment, these things keep the mind tethered, really heavily anchored to the sensual world, the kamaloka. By practicing Kaga, the practitioner is literally abandoning the possessiveness that creates so much mental weight. It makes the mind lighter, more flexible, and capable of aspiring to non-material, formless realms.
And that leads to the final quality, the intellectual pinnacle of the 5, panya, wisdom.
Panya. It uses the intensive prefix pa combined with the root nya to know. So it means a deep, penetrative understanding of reality. It's the ability to see things as they truly are, as impermanent, anicca, as unsatisfactory, dukkha, and as not self-anitta.
And this is the steering wheel.
This is absolutely the steering wheel. While the first 4 qualities lay the moral and mental groundwork and provide the fuel in the map, Panya is the steering mechanism. It ensures that the practitioner's aspiration is clear, that it's not clouded by delusion. And this is the most important part. It ultimately directs that immense power toward the highest possible goal, which, as we'll see, is the end of existence itself.
So just to recap the spiritual capital, you need firm conviction in the path, Saddhā, the ethical stability to quiet your mind, Sala, precise knowledge of the cosmological landscape, Sutta, detachment from material things, Kaga, and the wisdom, Panya, to make sure you're aiming in the right direction. Only then can you even begin to draft the story of your next life. Okay, so now the practitioner has this immense spiritual capital. The sutta then details the specific aspirations they might form. And it starts, I guess, modestly, or maybe not so modestly, with high rebirths right here in the human realm.
Yes, the initial wishes are very detailed and specific. The Pali for the aspiration is Ahovata Kayasabada Paramaran Kati Mahasalana Sabyato Papajayan. It means, that after the breakup of the body, after death, I might be reborn in the company of wealthy nobles.
I want to zoom in on that term, Katiya Mathalana. It's such a beautifully evocative phrase.
It really is. So Katiya refers to the noble or warrior caste, the ruling class. But Mahasala is the key descriptor. Maha means great, and Sala is the sal tree, which is famous for its majesty, its strength, its immense size.
So a great sal tree family.
Exactly. A Mahasala family is an idiom for a wealthy, established, deeply rooted family. It symbolizes status, security, and influence. The aspiration is to be born into a life of power, free from the suffering of poverty or instability, which would then, in theory, allow you to continue your spiritual practice without distraction.
And the Buddha doesn't just stop with nobles. He immediately repeats this exact same formula for two other groups of powerful, established people.
That's right. The wealthy Brahmins, Brahman Mahasalan, and then the wealthy householders, Gahapatamasalan. The common denominator in all three is vast wealth, security, and a solid foundation in society.
So this shows that the mechanism, this power of volition, it works even for these relatively worldly goals, as long as you have those 5 foundational qualities.
Exactly. If you have the moral purity and the focused intent, even your desire for a comfortable human life will be fulfilled with precision.
Which raises a quick question. If the ultimate goal is nibbana, why does the Buddha even include the desire to be a wealthy householder? Is he just giving people pragmatic permission to aim for lower goals? Or is he illustrating something deeper about the raw power of the Saṅkhārupapatti mechanism?
I think it's the second one. He is illustrating the mechanism. The sutta is fundamentally about the power of volition. So if a practitioner is still attached to the sensual world, even a little bit, but they have that moral capital, the Sīla, the Saddhā, and so on, the mechanism will deliver exactly what they ask for.
I see.
It demonstrates that the mind, once it's purified, is an incredibly powerful tool for creation. But it also serves as a subtle teaching moment. It's like he's saying, look how much effort and purification it takes just to secure a better temporary human life. Shouldn't you maybe redirect that energy towards something more permanent?
That reframing makes the inclusion of it absolutely genius. Okay, now let's get into the mechanics. The sutta details a 3-step process that turns a mere wish into what is basically a cosmic command.
Right. The formula for this is, tachitta hati, tachitta atihati, tachitta haveti. He fixes, establishes, and develops his mind.
What's the real difference between those 3 verbs? They sound a bit similar.
Well, the hati, fixes, is the initial act of mental focus. You're concentrating the intention. Atihati is the next step, establishes or stands upon a decision. This is the moment of definitive resolve, the commitment. This is where the choice becomes solid, like flipping a switch.
And the third one.
And bhavi, develops, means cultivation. You maintain and expand that mental state throughout your life. It's not a one-time wish. And because the mind is already purified by those 5 foundational qualities, this determined volition, this saṅkhāra, is powerful and clear enough to override other karmic tendencies and actually direct the rebirth.
Okay, so from the peak of human existence, the sutta then moves up the ladder to the next logical step. The 6 heavens of the sense sphere, the Kamaloka.
That's right. These are realms still entirely characterized by pleasure, delight, and sensory experience, but on a scale that is just incomprehensible to us.
And the text says, the monk here sutta hoti, that the devas, the divine beings in these realms, are long-lived, beautiful, and happy, or sukha bahula, full of bliss. So that knowledge which he gets from sutta, from learning, is what informs his aspiration and makes it specific.
Exactly. The Deva realms are a kind of reward system for merit. This could be merit accumulated by lay people through incredible acts of generosity and virtue, or by monks who are focusing their intentionality but haven't yet achieved those really deep meditative states.
So let's detail this hierarchy of delight. Let's start from the lowest of the 6 and work our way up.
Okay, at the entry level, we have the Karumaharajika Devas. The name means belonging to the 4 great kings. These are the guardians of the 4 cardinal directions, and they often interact with the human world. Their lifespan, just to give you a sense of scale, is equivalent to about 9 million human years.
9 million. And that's the first level. Then we get to the realm that's mentioned all the time in the stories, the 33.
Yes, the Tavatiyasa, which is presided over by Sakka, who is also known as Indra in the Vedic tradition. This is the classic realm of the high gods, filled with immense gardens, palaces, and pleasure. Their lifespan doubles the previous one. We're at 36 million human years now.
And moving higher, we get to the Yama.
The Yama. This name can mean those who have gone to bliss. And they're significant because this is the first realm that is completely removed from the turbulence of the physical world. Unlike the two lower realms, they aren't troubled by cycles of light and dark or the conflicts on earth. They exist in a state of constant, gentle light.
Then we get to the realm that is kind of beloved realm of anticipation, the Tusita heaven.
The Tusita, the contented ones. This is a very special realm. It's where Bodhisattva's future Buddhas reside just before their final human birth.
Right. The Buddha-to-be was there before he was born as Prince Siddhartha.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their lifespans are enormous, and crucially, they're characterized by a kind of spontaneous enjoyment. Their desires are fulfilled instantly. The sheer quality of the satisfaction here is much higher than in the Yamral realm.
The last two realms, Nimanarati and Parinamiddhavasavati, they show an increasing mastery over creation and reality itself, which is just fascinating.
It really is. The Nimanarati are those who delight in their own creations. If they want an object, a piece of music, a particular sensory experience, they just mentally manifest it for their own pleasure. They are sovereign creators of their own experience.
But the peak, the absolute top of the sensual heavens, the Parinamiddhavasavati, somehow manages to exceed even that.
Indeed. The name means those who wield power over what is created by others. They don't even have to use their own mental energy to create their own delights. They have control over the creations of the beings lower than them, like the Nimanarati.
So it's the ultimate state of effortless luxury.
It is the highest expression of power and ease within the entire Kamaloka, the sphere that is dominated by raw, sensual pleasure. It is the ultimate, endless, effortless party.
And the mechanism is the same for all of these. You possess the 5 qualities, you learn about the realm, you fix your mind upon it at the Hadi, and you're basically set for an eons-long vacation. But of course, even that high pleasure is finite. And here's where it gets really interesting. We now move beyond the sensual world entirely, beyond the need for physical form in the way we think of it, and into the realms of pure spiritual form, the Rupa Loka, the Brahma realms. And this requires a shift from just accumulating merit to deep, radical mastery of the mind.
That mastery is achieved through kana-deep states of meditative absorption or concentration. The etymology of the word is layered. It can come from jay, meaning to meditate closely, or from jay, meaning to burn up.
To burn up.
To burn up the hindrances. Lust, anger, doubt, restlessness, sloth, all the mental static. It implies both intense focus and purification. So to be reborn in the Rupa Loka, it's not enough to just desire it. You must have previously mastered these rupa shanas.
So these meditative states are essentially spiritual coordinates. Mm-hmm. The level of your meditative attainment determines the precise location and even the duration of your rebirth in this form realm.
Precisely. The goal of this kind of meditation is tranquility, or samatha. The practitioner withdraws completely from sensual desires and any unwholesome states, focusing so intensely on an object or a concept that the mind enters a state of deep, unwavering unity. And in doing so, it tunes its own frequency to a purely spiritual wavelength.
Okay, let's break down the first 4 jhanas. What is the actual subjective experience of the meditator, and what are the resulting rebirths?
Right. So the first jhana is achieved by withdrawing from desires. When the mind enters this state, it sheds the 5 hindrances, but it still includes 2 critical mental factors. Vitakka,
applied thought,
and vikāra, which is sustained thought. So the mind is still thinking, in a way. But it's also flooded with an immense sense of piti, or rapture, and sukha, bliss, that's born from this seclusion.
It sounds like an intense spiritual ecstasy.
Yeah.
So what's the rebirth that corresponds to this?
Mastery of the first jhana leads to rebirth in the lower Brahma realms. For example, the realm of Brahma's retinue, Brahma Parasaja, or the ministers of Brahma, Brahma Purohita. They're still relatively close to the lower realms, cosmologically speaking, but their lives are now measured in cosmic time, in eons.
The second stage then involves refining that thought process, getting rid of those first 2 factors.
In the second jhana, vitakka and vikāra are quieted. The mind moves beyond the need for active thinking or analysis of the meditation object. It stabilizes into a state of pure internal confidence, sampasadana, and unification. The rapture, the piti, is still incredibly intense, but the experience is more profound because that layer of intellectual effort has fallen away.
And this corresponds to which realm?
This corresponds to the Abhasara realm, the world of streaming radiance. The beings who are reborn here are famous for emitting a powerful, continuous light from their very being.
Radiance and light come up a lot as metaphors for spiritual purity and power in these texts. Now, the third jhana takes this a step further by letting go of even that spiritual excitement.
That's exactly right. The third jhana requires letting go of the excitement of rapture of piti. At this stage, that intensity, even though it's spiritual intensity, is now seen as a subtle disturbance, a kind of agitation. So the meditator dwells in deep, calm equanimity, upaka, and experiences a much more subtle, profound spiritual pleasure, or sukha.
And the rebirth.
This leads to the subhakya realm, which means refulgent glory. These beings possess a stable, unmoving splendor. Their radiance isn't flashy like in the lower realms, it's deep and constant.
And finally, the fourth jhana, the pinnacle of the form realm absorptions. Sounds like this one transcends all sensation entirely.
It does. The fourth jhana is the state where all sensation, pleasure and pain, joy and grief is completely abandoned. The state is purely characterized by what the text calls upakasati parasuddhi, the purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. The breath becomes so subtle that it seems to have stopped altogether.
Total stillness.
Complete stillness of mind. This is the ultimate achievement within the form realm, and it leads to rebirth in the Vahaphala realm, the realm of great reward. The lifespans here are just utterly staggering, lasting for 500 great eons.
And the sutta isn't just abstract about the power you get. It uses these incredibly tactile, vivid similes to describe the scale of the power that these Brahmas and the Rupaloka achieve. It really helps us understand what great reward actually means in terms of cosmic reach.
Yes, the Buddha describes the Sahaso Brahma, the thousandfold Brahma. This being is so powerful that its awareness pervades a system of 1,000 world systems, or Sahasa Lokadhatu.
Let's pause on that term, Lokadhatu. In modern terms, what are we even talking about when an ancient text refers to a world system?
Well, Lokadhatu is traditionally defined as a universe containing one sun, one moon, and the full hierarchy of heavens all the way up to the Brahma realm. So for our understanding, especially given the scale that's about to be described, we're talking about something akin to a solar system, or maybe even an entire galaxy or a cluster of galaxies. The point is the immense, unimaginable scale, and 1,000 of these cosmic systems are under the purview of this one being.
And the comparison the Buddha uses to make this understandable is just astounding. It's a simple castor oil nut.
Right. The simile brings this incomprehensible scope down to a tangible human scale, it says. Just as a man might inspect a castor oil nut, an amenja, held in his hand, the Brahma inspects 1,000 worlds. The Brahma's consciousness, its varitva, its pervading or suffusing quality, is so expansive and so effortlessly controlled that 1,000 worlds are as easy to observe as a tiny seed in your palm.
And the sutta just keeps going. It immediately scales this up, showing this continuous increase in power as the spiritual attainment gets deeper.
Yes. The next scale covers 2,000 to 5,000 worlds. And the simile for that is like holding 5 of those nuts in your hand. The number of worlds increases 5-fold, but the ease of observation is still completely effortless. The mental state has expanded its reach without increasing its burden at all.
And as the scale gets even larger, the similes become more refined, which seems to reflect the refinement of the Brahma's spiritual form itself.
Precisely. When he describes the Brahma who pervades 10,000 worlds, the simile shifts from a simple organic nut to a radiant object, a beryl gem, a matviyuryo, that glows and shines intensely when you place it on a red rug, a pantukambale. The Brahma's form and consciousness are now described in terms of pure, brilliant light and radiance, illuminating this vast domain with effortless clarity.
And the final, largest scale mentioned in this part of the sutta, staggering 100,000 worlds.
That consciousness, which controls and pervades 100,000 world systems, is compared to a gold ornament, a nikka, placed on that same red rug. Gold, of course, represents the ultimate in purity, value, and the permanence of form. So these similes are a brilliant teaching device. They illustrate that the mental attainment of the fourth jhana elevates a practitioner to a level of cosmic perception that is nearly limitless within the entire realm of form. It's a profound teaching on the direct link between mental purity and cosmic power.
And it's important to note before we move on that this Rupaloka isn't only accessible through this path of deep focused concentration on stillness. The sources remind us there's also a heart-centered approach that can lead practitioners here.
Absolutely. This is the path of the 4 boundless divine abidings, the Brahma Viharas. If a meditator cultivates these 4 specific qualities of heart to an expansive, impartial, universal degree, they can also access these rupa realms, which are sometimes even known as the Brahma-vihara realms.
What are those 4, and why are they called divine abidings?
They are metta, which is loving kindness, karu or compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and upekkha, equanimity. They're called divine abidings because they imitate the boundless, impartial, and all-pervasive mental state of a Brahma.
So you become like what you practice.
Exactly. Cultivating metta, for example, by radiating pure goodwill to all beings everywhere without any exception, it makes the practitioner's mind fit for a realm where narrow, selfish attachments just have no place. They are, in essence, a moral and emotional pathway to the exact same vast cosmic destination that you can get to through concentrated stillness.
Now we are entering what you might call the most exclusive neighborhood in the entire universe, the pure abodes, the Suddhavasa. This part of the Sutta is unique because access isn't determined by just having spiritual capital or deep meditation alone. It's determined by the specific stage of enlightenment you've already achieved.
That's right. These 5 realms are the exclusive domain of the anagami, the non-returner. To even aspire to be reborn here, you must have already eradicated the 5 lower fetters, the Ambagya Sayujanani, that bind a being to the sensual world. You have to possess the path and fruit, the Maggaphala of the non-returner.
Let's quickly define those 5 lower fetters, because this is crucial. What are the beings in the pure abodes now free from?
Okay, the 5 lower fetters, once you eradicate them, they ensure you will never ever be reborn in the sensual realm, the Kamaloka. Again, they are first, Sakaya Dihi, which is identity view, or the belief in a permanent self.
Go.
Second is Vicikiccha, or skeptical doubt about the path. Third is Salabhata Paramasa, which is attachment to mere rites and rituals. And the last 2 are the big ones for this context. Fourth is Kamaraga, sensual lust or desire. And 5th is Vyapada, ill will or aversion.
The elimination of sensual lust, kamarag, that's what makes the non-returner status so definitive for these particular realms. They are just done with the Kamalaka.
Completely done. The pure abodes are their spiritual staging ground. You could call it their waiting room for total liberation. They are so fixed on the goal of Nibbana that they are guaranteed to achieve arhantship within that single lifetime in one of these 5 realms.
And the Sutta organizes these 5 exclusive abodes based on which of the 5 spiritual faculties was dominant in that practitioner's path, which is just a fascinatingly detailed idea. Let's start with the first one, Aviha.
Aviha means the durable or non-falling. The dominant faculty here is Saddhā, or faith and confidence. Now, what does this mean in practice? It means these beings are characterized by a fixed destiny and a complete fixed lifespan. In lower realms, even a powerful Brahma might be interrupted or fall due to some subtle karma. But in Aviha, the beings are so fixed in their confidence and their determination for Nibbana that their path is absolutely secure. It's the entry-level pure abode.
Okay. Next is Atapa, the untroubled. What role does virya, or energy and effort, play here?
Atapa literally means without torment or serene. The connection to virya is very profound. In ordinary life, effort often generates stress, anxiety, the heat of striving. But in Atapa, the practitioner's effort has been purified. It's a cool, unwavering energy. They are not tormented by the heat of creative anxiety or that overwhelming desire for becoming that drives almost all of samsara. Their practice is so refined that it is naturally serene and effortless.
Then we have Suddhasa, which is tied to appearance and vision.
Suddhasa means the beautiful, or clearly visible. The dominant faculty here is sati, or mindfulness. Because their mindfulness is so profound, so clear, so stable, their entire being, their external manifestation, their rupa is incredibly radiant and beautiful. They are visually magnificent because their inner clarity is perfect. They are the beautiful object of clear sight because their being just radiates that clarity.
Which leads us to Suddhasi, which sounds very similar but is linked to a different faculty.
Yes, Suddhasi means the clear-sighted or the visionaries. Here, the dominant faculty is samadhi, or concentration. With this deep, unwavering, stable concentration, their vision of the Dhamma is entirely unobstructed. They are the ones doing the deep, penetrative seeing. They move beyond being beautiful objects like in Suddhasa and now possess immediate, clear insight into the path. They are the seers.
And finally, we reach the absolute ceiling of the form realm, the peak of all conditioned existence outside of the formless realms, Akamiya.
Akaniya. The name means the peerless, or the highest. It comes from A, not, and kanita, younger or lesser. There is simply nothing higher in the entire Rupaloka. This realm is characterized by the highest insight, and its dominant faculty is panya, wisdom. This is the final resting place for a specific type of non-returner called the Udasota Akanihagami,
which means
one whose stream flows upward to Akaniya. They attain full arahantship and final extinguishment right here in this realm, which demonstrates that wisdom, panya, is the final key that opens the door to Nibbana.
it's just a remarkable system that maps moral and spiritual attainment directly onto a cosmic destination, guaranteeing that once you become a non-returner, your ultimate spiritual success is a certainty. So we've ascended through the sensual realms and the form realms, but the blueprint isn't finished. We now have to transition to the realms of pure mind, the Arupa Loka, where matter itself is completely shed. This is the highest possible tuning of the mind's frequency within conditioned existence, and it's achieved only by transcending the very concept of form.
And this step requires leaving even the sublime fourth Rupachana behind and engaging the Arupachanas, the formless absorptions. The practitioner must use an intense act of mental abstraction to overcome any residual perception of form, of Rupa, even the subtle, luminous form of the Brahma worlds.
So how does a meditator actually do that? How do you shed the concept of form when your awareness is so incredibly sharp?
Well, they start by focusing on space itself. If they were meditating on, say, a luminous disk in the fourth jhana, they would mentally expand that image until it loses all boundaries, until it's infinite. And then they completely remove the object from their mind, concentrating only on the infinite space that that object used to occupy.
And this leads to the first formless state.
It does. The base of infinite space, or akasananyatana. Akasa is space, and ananta is endless. So the meditator's object of concentration becomes the boundlessness of space itself. The mind is fixed on the thought. Space is infinite, anantokaso. And of course, this is an internal mental space, not physical outer space.
Okay, so having mastered this idea of infinite objective space, they then shift their focus inward to the subject that is perceiving that space.
Correct. The next step is to attain the base of infinite consciousness, or vinyajanyatana. The meditator realizes that for space to be known, there has to be a consciousness or an awareness that is perceiving it. So they shift their focus from the object, space, to the subject, awareness, and they fix the mind on the thought. Consciousness is infinite, anatavanyatan. This is a vast, expansive awareness, but it is still, crucially, rooted in a mental fabrication.
The ultimate refinement, then, seems to be removing both the space and the active consciousness of that space.
And that brings us to the base of nothingness, or akinyakanyatana. Akinyakana means nothingness. It's derived from a no plus kinyakana, possession or attachment. Here, the meditator focuses on the absence, on the void that's left behind when even infinite consciousness is released. The thought is, there is nothing nati kinchichi. They're focused on the non-existence of both of the previous objects.
And then the final, most subtle state, the absolute sealing of all conditioned existence of samsara itself, where the lifespan can last for 84,000 great eons.
This is the base of neither perception nor non-perception, or nivasanyanansanyanyatana. The mind here is so unbelievably refined that perception, sanya, is too subtle to say that it exists, but there is still a residual sensitivity remaining, which means you can't say it's truly non-perception either. It is the highest possible limit of mental existence, where consciousness is hanging on by the finest possible thread. It is the ultimate boundary of existence that is still characterized by impermanence.
That is just incredible. We have charted the entire universe from the estates of wealthy humans to a state where consciousness is barely a whisper. But here is the major question. If a being can achieve a lifespan of tens of thousands of eons in a state of nearly perfect mental bliss, why does the Buddha even warn against this? Why is this ultimate achievement considered, in the end, futile?
Because it is still saṅkhāra and upapatti. It is still volitionally created existence, and anything that is created is, by definition, anicca. It's impermanent. Eventually, the karmic force of that incredibly deep meditative state is exhausted. The subtle thread of consciousness breaks, and that being must fall back down the cosmic ladder, potentially landing back in a lower realm, or even in a realm of suffering, depending on their other past actions. The lifespan is incomprehensibly long, but the ultimate result is still decay, death, and rebirth.
And this is the critical moment, the turning point of the entire Saṅkhārupapatti Sutta. After outlining this massive, glorious roadmap for achieving the best possible existence you can imagine, the Buddha basically pulls the rug out from under it and points to the true final goal.
He does.
The ultimate aspiration is not directed toward a better life, but toward the ending of the necessity of rebirth entirely.
Precisely. The monk who truly understands this blueprint uses his 5 foundational qualities, the faith, the virtue, the learning, the generosity, and the wisdom, not for the creation of new existence in some higher dimension, but for the destruction of the taints, the asava.
And the taints are the mental mechanisms that maintain this entire system we've just described. We have to spend a moment defining them, because they are the root of the entire problem. What exactly are the asava?
Asava literally means influxes. They are mental corruptions that flow into the mind and keep it intoxicated and bound to samsara. They're the deep-seated binding agents. And understanding them explains why even the highest heavens are still flawed. Traditionally, there are 3 primary taints.
Okay.
First, there's the taint of sensuality, the kama-asava. This is the obsession with pleasure and gratification, which obviously binds one to the kamalika, the sensual realms.
But the form and formless realms are non-sensual, so what binds beings there?
And that leads to the second, and in the context of this sutta, the most insidious taint of all, the taint of becoming, bhava-asava. This is the fundamental, innate drive to exist. The drive to be reborn, to achieve a state of being, even if it's a pure or subtle or formless being. The entire process of Saṅkhārupapatti volitionally creating a future rebirth is driven by bhava-asava.
Wow.
As long as you desire to be somewhere, even if it's the highest realm of neither perception nor non-perception, you are bound by this taint.
So the very drive to use this blueprint to achieve a rebirth is in itself the obstacle to ultimate liberation. The very means of achieving this temporary transcendence is rooted in the taint of becoming.
It's the ultimate paradox of conditioned existence. You use spiritual effort to achieve a high state, but that very effort is tainted by the desire for existence, which ensures you will eventually fall from it. And the third taint is the taint of ignorance, avijja asava. This is the fundamental lack of insight into the 4 noble truths, not seeing things as anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Ignorance allows the other 2 paints to operate, because if you truly saw the profound impermanence of the formless realms, you would never aspire to them in the first place.
So the final aspiration is not for rebirth, but for asavakkhaya, the destruction, the ending of these influxes.
And the resolve, the final saṅkhāra, is to realize this liberation here and now in this very life. Itivadam. The immense power of the intentional mind is redirected from world building to world ending.
And this final resolve leads to 2 distinct yet unified forms of liberation.
Yes, the twofold liberation. Chaitya-vimutti, which is the liberation of the mind, often associated with the freedom you gain through deep concentration and jhanic mastery. And paññā-vimutti, liberation by wisdom, which is achieved through that penetrative insight into the 3 marks of existence. The practitioner attains this, the text says, by saccikattva, having realized with one's own eyes, which means it's an experiential, direct, non-conceptual attainment of nibbana.
It's incredible. The sutta starts as this sophisticated guide for choosing your future existence, but it ultimately becomes the most forceful argument for abandoning the choice entirely. It shows you the entire glorious scope of samsara, just so you understand what it is you are truly leaving behind.
And that's the final point. It means that while rebirth is directed by your volition, your saṅkhāra, supported by your merit, the energy and qualities you develop, the extreme moral purity, the deep concentration, the accumulated wisdom, are fundamentally wasted if they're used merely to trade one temporary pleasure palace for another. The wise practitioner recognizes that the very same power used to reach the akanyuha realm is exactly the power needed to realize nibbana. And nibbana offers true, unconditioned permanence.
And the sutta concludes with this definitive, powerful statement that just transcends all the previous cosmological discussion.
Yes, the text ends. Aya bhikkhave bhikkhunakatachi upapajjati. This monk bhikkhus does not arise anywhere. The ultimate success is the cessation of arising itself. They have gone beyond the blueprint.
We have traveled the entire path laid out by the Saṅkhārupapatti Sutta. From setting the mental foundation with those 5 foundational qualities, faith, virtue, learning, generosity, and wisdom, all the way up through the 6 sensual heavens, the 5 exclusive pure abodes, and right to the very limit of the universe in the formless realms of neither perception nor non-perception.
The sutta is a profound paradox. It affirms that your future is molded by your deepest aspirations, supported by your present actions. It proves that your intention is everything. Yet at the same time, it implies that every single one of those attainable states is, in the end, a temporary disappointment.
Because even the highest attainable state within conditioned existence, that realm of neither perception nor non-perception, is still rooted in impermanent consciousness, and the taint of becoming.
And this raises the final provocative thought for you to contemplate. If the peak of mental achievement, a state lasting tens of thousands of eons, is still subject to eventual entropy and decay, what fundamental, profound shift in perspective is required to truly understand a state, nibbana, where nothing arises and therefore nothing can ever fall? It challenges the very definition of what a reward is.
We encourage you to reflect on that difference. The difference between striving for a better place to be reborn and striving for the end of the necessity of rebirth entirely. That is the ultimate non-negotiable depth of the Buddha's teaching on intentional existence.